Hi, and welcome to the community panel for the second annual Harm Reduction in Clinical Praxis Conference, hosted virtually by HRLA and the USC Keck School of Medicine. This community panel is made possible today by the Sidewalk Project, who brings us this space, and our panelists, by Steury, who's filming, editing, and directing, and by our host today, Jen Elizabeth. Jen Elizabeth is a harm reduction specialist and trauma trained care manager with the Sidewalk Project. She is a trauma educator certified in California to work with people experiencing the effects of adverse traumatic experiences, specializing in childhood and sexual trauma. Spending close to 2 decades as an unhoused person who uses drugs, doing survival sex work, being cycled through jails, hospitals, institutions, and state prison gives her the experience that she believes is vital to this work. We shouldn't need to be reminded to center lived experience voices. We should already be the voices every day and in every lay position in our harm reduction movements.
Thank you so much. I first just want to say thank you to all the people that are here today. They're some of my favorites, some people I admire very, very much. So I want to just kind of give you guys a space to introduce yourselves, say something maybe that we don't know about you, something fun, something whatever you feel comfortable with. So.
Something fun. My name's Riley, and I've been downtown La France since 1980. And you'll hear more, I'm sure, as we go on.
My name is Queen. I'm on 5th and Crocker, center of the crack neighborhood. And I'm there basically to make sure that people wake up the next day.
I'm Mariah. I'm a retired model, and I love doing makeup.
I love that.
Next, my name is James Gunn. I've been living downtown here for about 82, and on Skid Row here. I've seen a lot of things. I haven't seen all of them yet, but as long as I live, I know I'm going to continue to see more things. I experienced a lot of stuff, and to me, Skid Row is my home. You understand what I'm saying? I'm addicted to drugs, right? And I find myself with the drugs. I find myself it calms me down, even though I have to go through outbursts with different people on different things at different levels. It calms me down, and it's better than medication to me. Let's speak for everybody else.
So my name is Jorge, and I'm a medical student at the David Beckham School of Medicine. I am the clinic co-director for Harm Reduction Los Angeles, and I'm on the street outreach team here at Sidewalk. The purpose of this panel today is to discuss the state of harm reduction in healthcare. Harm reduction itself is defined as a set of practical strategies and ideas aimed at reducing negative consequences associated with drug use.
Yeah, but before we start, I wanted to dive into that a little bit. The definition of harm reduction is so much bigger than just policies to reduce or minimize harms from drug use, because it's really not the drug use so much as it is the criminalization of drug use, the othering, the superiority that people feel entitled to over people that use drugs, or people who are in poverty, or people who may live differently, love differently. I think about the prohibition of alcohol, back when that happened, and how that happened was religious superiority came in and said people who drink alcohol they're sick, they have problems, it's of the world, their relationships are bad, so let's stop them. We feel like they're less than. And what happened when they did that is people started dying. Thousands of people every year died of alcohol, of toxins, poisons, and organized crime picked up, and other crimes picked up, and it backfired. And that has happened every time that something like that goes down in history, today even. We have heroin. Oh, heroin's bad. Let's make it let's block it off. We can't get it. Now we have fentanyl. So it's no matter what we do, as long as you're trying to control other people and feel like you're above someone else and how they choose to live, we are always going to have people dying and suffering. And I think that's more of what harm reduction is for me. And I think everybody, there is no universal description or definition of harm reduction. It's like there's the general policies and principles we go by, but everybody has a different take on it, on what harm reduction is for them, and I think it really is very personal for everyone. I think like the deeper you've been in that world, the deeper your definition is. And then as you go up and maybe you've not ever done drugs, maybe, but you believe other people, you know, deserve health care and rights and dignity, your definition might be more academic, right? And for me, it's totally beyond drug use. It's not even about drug use anymore for me. It's about human beings deserving to be treated like human beings. Because you have 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth, you're a fucking human being, in my opinion. And you deserve health care. You deserve all the same things that your neighbor gets. And if that doesn't happen, I'm going to be there to stand up and say that, you know, somebody cares. These people matter. I matter. I mattered then just as much as I matter now. And I'm listened to now more because I live in 4 walls. It's interesting to be on both sides. And I know that you've been on both sides of, you know, Queen's been on both sides. And I would love to hear like your experience being on, kind of like being unhoused and being housed and unhoused, you know.
Well, for me, I think it was a little different. I come from a background where I was in the driver's seat for a while, working for the fire department. So I actually came out and worked with people who were on the street. And
Can you
I had
tell
a
people, sorry, can you tell people what you did for a living?
for 20 years, I worked for LAFD as a firefighter, paramedic. So for 5 years, I wasn't a medic. I did just the firefighting, and then I transitioned into a paramedic. But what I saw and what I learned in being in that position is I saw that when they came out to people on the street, they didn't treat them like people. And I didn't appreciate that. And there was numerous times where I spoke up about it. And of course we took care of the patient. But then once I got to the station, I got to hear about it. So there were times when people didn't want to work with me because they knew when they went out with me, it's not about where the person lives, what they look like. It's about, look, we took an oath to the city. Each and every one of these people are our boss. And we need to treat them all equal, no matter what it is. So that's one way. But now that I live on the street, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, even some of the people that I know, that I've worked with for years, treat me differently. And they go, why are you helping them? I said, well, why did I help you? You know? I have a few people that come in and, you know, they do their fentanyl. I watch them, I do my stuff. They're okay, they're high, they do their thing, they leave. I have a few people who come in who can't find their vein. I help them with their vein. And guess what? They're okay. They live another day, and that's what it's about. Helping each other through the next day.
And Queen, if you don't help somebody learn how to inject safely, if you don't help somebody learn how to take care of these abscesses, missed injections, who else on the street does? Or who else in these people's lives does?
I don't know. I mean, I can't tell you how many people have come with abscess. I'm like, all right, let's take care of this right now. They're like, really, right now? I said, yeah. I said, if we take care of this right now, you'll be fine in a couple of days.
Yeah.
They'll come and see me for 2 days. We'll take care of it. Yeah. They're like, is that all it took? I'm like, yeah. I say, why don't you go to the hospital? Why don't you go to the clinic? No, they treat me like shit. I don't want to go there. I don't want to go to a place where they make me feel less than I am.
Right.
It's just so true. I hear that all the time. Like, please do not, sometimes I take medical people out with me because I do wound care too. I'm not a licensed nurse, doctor, nothing, but somebody has to help these people, right? And they always, and like I'll take a nurse out with me, like, you know, to do outreach, and they're like, you need to go to the hospital. They already know that. They know they need to go to the hospital. They would love to go to the hospital. But going to the hospital means being treated like really like an animal.
It's traumatic for me.
Yeah, it's traumatic.
It's abusive.
Not getting any relief, and also probably so many hours that you start in withdrawals. Yeah. And then you leave. And then guess what? If you leave, then you got a big AMA on your chart that follows you all the way through. AMA, against medical advice, actually should not be something negative. We should all be able to choose what we want to do with our own bodies, whether you're unhoused or not. a doctor gives an advice about something, great, perfect. It's my choice to decide if I want to stay here and be treated like crap, or if I want to get a second opinion or whatever.
The bad experiences that I've had is more of, should I start from paramedic to work my way to the hospital?
I know she has so many, right?
I mean, I forgot to mention that I also work for Sidewalk Project. I'm a harm reduction specialist.
She is.
And I see a lot of things out there. I know that, for one, there's this girl that always hears these voices, and sometimes she just tries to dig them out of her ear with a soft Q-tip. But when she's having an episode, she will pick up a sharp piece of glass, a sharp piece of metal, and she will proceed to dig in her ear to get this voice out, and blood will be going on down the side, and I'll call a paramedic. And the paramedics will come and they'll drive up and they'll see what a mess she is, and they just want to keep going. And I have to jump in front of them and tell them, no. She's a danger to herself. You need to take care of her. You know what I'm saying? This is not okay. I know it's a mess and it's probably not something you want to deal with. But look at her. She's going to kill herself like that. And they just really don't want to hear this. I've had where I was in a tent and it caught on fire, and everything that was wrapped, that I got to a moving blanket, and I hit the ground and I rolled. And I rolled out, but my leg was sticking out, so my leg was on fire, and my flesh was all hanging. And I'm sitting there, and the paramedics show up, and they ask me some questions, and then they say, well, if you go to the hospital, it's going to be a long line. Same thing they always do. They always try to talk you out of going. I've seen a guy with a broken jaw hanging, and he said there's going to be a long line. You don't really want to go, do you? And I said, I'm not qualified for this. I'm not qualified for this burn I have here. And so when I got to the hospital, the nurse, I got there and there was no line at all because it was a pandemic, and they were lying to me. The nurse, the doctor comes up and says to the burn ward, she says, she doesn't have any eyebrows or any eyelashes. They asked the paramedics on the radio, does she have any eyebrows or eyelashes? And they turned and walked away, and they told them that I did. But I didn't have any eyebrows or eyelashes because they were burnt off. And if you have no eyelashes, they have to take you in. They're supposed to take you in. Right. Because they couldn't be, but they lied to them and told them that I didn't. And so they thought they were going to be able to talk me into not going, to the hospital. And they'll do that a lot. They'll humiliate you. I mean, I just, a lot of times I just don't want to, I don't want to go. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. For the way that they treat you. I also have when it comes to opiates don't work on me. Don't work on me at all. They, don't get me high. They don't take away pain. It's just something that runs in my family. And so when I go to the hospital, I'm in pain. I will tell them, no, opiates don't work for me. So instantly they go into the mode where she just wants more. She wants a bigger dose. No. It doesn't work for me at all. They can't give me an opiate for surgery. It won't knock me out. If they have a non-narcotic, as soon as they give it to me, I'm like, boom, out. So I mean, finally one time I have mental health issues also. I have really bad anxiety, especially when I'm around needles and doctors and anything else of the sort. And I had a candle go through my ankle, and it went in here, and it severed my tendon here, it leaked my Achilles, and it severed my main artery, and I was just spewing blood. And so they get me to the hospital, and they're digging in there, and I'm like, I've got this, I don't have a fear, I have a phobia of needles, and so they're digging in my ankle, and it was just too much. It was too much for me. And I told them, no, you cannot touch me until you knock me out or do something. This is not okay. And when I told them that opiates didn't work for me, they did that same thing. But finally, luckily, after all of these years, because they won't give me anything then. Then I get a Motrin. If I tell them that, then they just want to give me a Motrin. And when I have 10 staples in my skull, and I've got 2 broken ribs, and I've got my legs broken, and they want to give me a Motrin, and work on me. It's just, it's too much. So I got lucky that day though, because 2 lady doctors said, they heard me. They listened to what I said, and they heard me. They heard that opiates don't work for me. They heard that not that I wanted more or anything stronger, and they gave me ketamine, which was a dissociative, which worked perfectly for me because I have anxiety. I was having this anxiety attack about my leg, and they gave it to me. The pain went away, and I was just like, oh, okay.
That's great.
And it worked for me. I didn't want to get high. I didn't want them to give me Demerol or Dilaudid. I wanted them to give me, something that would take away my pain. But I got lucky. They finally, after 57 years, heard me.
You were finally heard and treated like a human being, and that out of all the things you've been through in your life and all the trauma, that you remember that. Like that you remember that moment, and same with me. You know, there's these moments that you remember, and that should tell you how important it is to be treated that way. It really it says a lot.
Because most of the time they're just standing to the side talking about you.
Yeah.
Oh, they came from Skid Row,
Yeah.
and she's a hooker, and she's blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. You know what I'm saying? And it's always whatever happened in the situation. If there was a crime committed,
Your fault.
obviously it was my fault.
Right, that victim blaming.
Because I was a victim. You know, and that's just a really
Yeah.
really hard thing to, you know.
I went to the hospital about 3 weeks ago because I couldn't breathe. I had congestive heart failure. It's more tricuspid regurgitation.
There you go.
Which means my heart valve not closing all the way. So the fluid's backing up into my lungs and into my body. My legs were looking like elephant trunk legs. My stomach was way out to here to where I felt like I was going to split down the middle. And it was putting so much pressure on my chest that I couldn't breathe. My heart rate was at 133. I wasn't getting enough oxygen in my blood. I go to the hospital and I comply with everything they're asking of me. Even when Jen's advocating for me, she's asking me to just stay, please stay, please stay, please stay. No matter how I was being talked to or treated at times where I felt like I was being treated like a little child.
That's
like,
it.
What I can't make my own decisions, or what I said doesn't matter. So I stayed in the hospital for 2 weeks. The doctor decided that we're waiting for a bed to open up in UCLA because I was approved to go to UCLA on a transfer from one hospital to the other. He got tired of waiting, I guess, and he says, well, we're going to discharge you, and the best way for you to get into UCLA to get your treatment that you need is for me to discharge you and for you to go ahead and go to the emergency room at UCLA and check yourself in there. It would be the quickest way. I'm taking pain meds in the hospital as needed, but and then he says I'm supposed to get all the meds that I was taking.
And your medical records. And the medical records.
I'm supposed to get my medical records and everything else I could give to the next doctor. He lied to my face, he lied to Jen's face, because I didn't receive my medical records. I only received the minimum
Discharge paper.
Discharge paper, the medications.
No oxygen.
They didn't refill my oxygen tank. I'm a recovering addict right now because since I found out I had this heart problem, I've stopped using. And so it's like the people that I was around or my roommate had these issues and I couldn't, Jen didn't feel it was safe for me to be there or I didn't. So they wanted to send me to a recuperative home. And when I get there, the person who runs the house, he's not even there. I'm sitting out front in the yard, waiting for about a half hour until he shows up. Now I'm being mispronounced and called out my, called by my government name. And regardless of what I was trying to say, okay, come to find out they didn't even know that I had a heart problem. That was recuperating from a heart problem. This place was set up for people who have
It's just a home.
like a minor leg injury.
There was no
or
nurse.
An arm injury. There's no nurses there like the doctor said there's going to be, or the social worker said there was going to be. There was no oxygen there for me. So it's like, what was this recuperative center for then? And this is what this
Happens.
stupid hospital does. And it's like, you guys were supposed to send me to a place, but I still complied. Even though I knew where I was going, I still complied because I didn't want to say and screw up my chances of getting a heart transplant.
Yep. Of not complying, not showing up.
Because I need a heart transplant because my heart's too weak to go under the knife just for a heart valve replacement.
I mean, knowing that, I don't think it's a stupid hospital. I think what we're dealing with is negligence. It's intentional. That it doesn't matter. It's a weekend. No one's going to follow up, and nobody really cares about people anyways that that are unhoused. Nobody cares about them. Nobody's going to call back. Like, I want you to see this person like I see them. I want you to see Riley like I see her. Like, she's a freaking hero. She is like, you know, a woman that I strive to be. I want you to see people like for who they really are, like I see them. How can I do that? I shouldn't have to fight to prove that somebody's worthy of like basic needs and basic care. Like, I should not have to do that. Nobody should have to be fighting to prove that this person, that person, whatever, is a person and is in pain. I shouldn't have to, but this is like where we're at. And the people that don't have an advocate, I never had an advocate. You know, I'd be in there with sepsis and, you know, all kinds of things, and they would treat me so horribly. It was like, I dreaded it. In fact, to this day, and I have 11 years not using drugs, completely, you know, exactly what they wanted me to be all those years, and I will not go into the emergency room. I mean, I will do everything in my power. It is so traumatizing to me. And I think that's where like medical violence comes in, where the term medical violence, it's like, we really expand the definition of violence. Like, what is violence? Violence isn't just taking a knife and stabbing someone. Violence is like harming someone in such a deep way that for generations, they don't want to come see a healthcare. They don't want to get healthcare.
Yeah, and sometimes violent can be what we're not doing.
Yeah.
Because in the head of medicine, they are advocate, healthcare provider, and educator.
Yeah.
And we're learning that they're none of them.
Yeah.
If Queen was not here providing medical care for people, where would they get it? If everybody here hadn't advocated for a community member at some point, they wouldn't have received medical care. And then as far as like medical education, it's the fact that people are seen so differently. When Jen is saying it's the same core is so true. Like, when if you want to eat healthier, a physician would never just take force. Oh yeah, let's just take force from everybody so they can't make their own decisions. It's like, how do I eat healthy? It looks like eat these foods, don't eat these foods. Why is it so different when people out here want to make their own decisions about how to live their lives?
Yeah.
Don't make decisions for me. Tell me how to live the life I want to live in a healthy way.
Right.
I'm so surprised when I hear people who aren't in this community and they'll go to doctors and they tell them what they want.
I know, right?
They tell them what they want and the type of treatment they want to acquire, and they get that.
I know. It's amazing.
Are you kidding me? It's just like, I mean, how does that happen?
How's that feel?
How does that happen
Right?
for us? Can we
Yeah.
do something like that? You know what I'm saying? I just don't. It just baffles me.
And I think when I think about that and when I hear people talk about that, I know what they think because I was on the other side. I heard it. And they say, these people can't make decisions anyway. That's why they're out there. But it's not the truth. That's not the truth. They're out here because they need to do something that they can only do out here and be accepted. Therefore, if they go into the hospital and they need your help, we need you to accept them and give them the help they need.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it's about.
So true. I think people a lot of times assume that drugs are why people are unhoused. And especially in the population of women, that it's actually domestic violence is why they're unhoused.
Yes.
And then drugs are how they cope with being unhoused.
Yes.
And I think that's important. I think that, you know, drugs are just a way to cope. Like, as the way I coped with like being molested my whole life. I hated myself. I couldn't even comb my hair without. I think about this still to this day, like, because my daughter's 5, so she's about the same age I was when I started getting molested. And I remember being like 6 or 7, and I would peek out one eye in the mirror and comb, and then peek, and I could not even look for 1 second with both eyes at myself. That's how much I just hated who I was. Like, drugs saved my life, for sure. You know, I would have died by suicide many times over as a very young person, like very young, planning and plotting how to do it. So like, drugs are not all bad and evil. Like, they do a purpose, right? They have a purpose, and they did really well, right? And then everything has consequences. You can't really do anything without some sort of, you can't drive a car. Driving cars are not safe. Like, flying an airplane is not 100% safe. You take your risks. As an adult, you take your risks. The problem is that we have made it all prohibit. We're like, no, you cannot use these drugs. So now you can't take an educated decision for your body. You can't say, okay, like a bottle of wine. You look at a bottle of wine, you know exactly what's in there, down to the sugar. You know exactly what you're going to get. You can say, I know from experience, drinking 1 glass of this wine, I feel a little bit relaxed. That's all I'm looking for, is a little relaxed. I'm not looking for dead. I'm looking for a little relaxed. And you buy it from a nice place that's, you know, there's a regulated place and a regulated, you know, supply. And you buy it and you go home, you drink your 1 glass, and maybe you drink your 2 glasses, and maybe you drink 3, but you don't die, And if you're going to drive, we have like designated driver nights, don't worry, and sometimes they're even paid for by the government, because we respect the fact that you want to drink and overdrink. It's your right as an adult to overdrink, just don't drive. But our rights are not respected to use other drugs. Because why? Because the war on drugs, like literally you can't war on an object. It's a war on people, right? So, I think about that, and I think about like how unfair and just disgusting it is to continually blame people for doing the same thing that everybody does at ball games, at like baseball parks, at like the playground. But it's only deadly for us really because of you blocking it and making it, oh, that's it, you can't do it. We're gonna find a way.
And for me, I don't use drugs.
Right.
But a lot of people that I love do. And I want to see them. And so everything that I do, I'm like, okay, what's going on tonight? What you doing? Who you hanging with? Can I test your shit before you hit it? Come over to my place. I'll make some food. You can get high. We'll hang out. I'm not going to get high with them, but I want to make sure that I see them tomorrow. So it's all about saying, guess what? You can't take this person away from me just because of what they do.
So yeah, Getter had a prosthetic leg, and this one was actually too big for him, but he did have one that traveled with him, right? We didn't want to lose it. They're very expensive. And he decided he wanted to try to go inside. Oh no, actually, yeah, you had a big abscess. He had a hole with his, on that one, the other leg. And so he would need to go to recuperative care after. So he went somewhere. And, I think it's really also important to say that when someone's been outdoors, especially for as long as Getter has, going indoors is extremely traumatic. It's just as traumatic as when you first go outdoors. It's like really hard. It takes time. It takes time to acclimate, and they deserve time. But no, they didn't want to give Getter time. And so they got real irritated with him and whatever. Anyways, long story short, they threw away his prosthetic leg. Wow. And so it's a whole thing, and it was like his word against my word, of course, advocating like he did not take it with him, like it's there, and them saying it's not, and he does drugs is basically what they told me. And these are people that are actually chosen a profession and a facility that works with people who uses drugs. So it's a whole thing, right? How does that make you feel, Getter? Like when you...
It made me feel real bad that you don't care.
Yeah.
It didn't care. Because I'm on drugs. You know what I'm saying? Because I go out and come in at the last minute.
True. And then you went to a different place. It was like a whole new situation. They didn't treat him like a criminal. They didn't search him every time he came in and all this stuff. It's like you treat someone like that, they're going to behave that way. I mean, you'd like beat them down and tell them they're this, and you can't trust them for this, and like you can't trust their word. They don't know their own bodies. Believe me, people who use drugs know their own bodies better than anybody else. Trust me. So, and then they're gonna react, right? I mean, to feel like that, to feel demeaned all the time by people that are half your age or even younger, like 12-year-olds, to me, I'm like, this is your elder. Where in the world do we believe that we have to treat people worse in order to make them start behaving better? Like, where did that come from, right? Like, in order to get you to do what I want you to do, I'm going to treat you like complete shit, like an animal, worse than, and then eventually you're going to comply. Eventually you're going to comply, but if you leave first, then it's your fault. You don't want to get help. You don't want care. You don't want help. It's really, you can't win. You really, it feels like you can't win, and then you give up. I give up. Like, when she was, discharged, and then I went to the house. I'm like, is there a nurse on staff? Is anybody here? Like, and they're like, no. And I'm like, she needs to have a heart transplant. Like, she's actually not out of here because she feels good and is okay. She's actually out here to get her own bed, through. And I gave up. I should have kept going, but it's exhausting, and I want to believe that I want to believe that physicians and nurses, and because people that just turn their head and like. I've talked to many people, nurses and social workers, like, that's dumping, or this or that, or, you're not a usual case. This happens to us all the time with people. And it's like, I want to believe that people have good hearts, that they just don't, they're conditioned to see it another way. And I really want to believe that, but it gets hard. It gets hard, right? I mean, who wouldn't leave, right?
They make you feel so little that they make you want to leave.
I'm sure we can't replicate like the way that they're doing everything. Like we'll never know what it feels to be.
You won't, yeah.
And
So
you don't
true.
want to talk though, especially if they see somebody who's with a who's transgender,
Yeah.
who had a drug addiction, and it's like
Unhoused.
it's being unhoused or whatever, and it's like
Yeah.
they look at you like it's like you're beneath them, and
Yeah.
it's like they shouldn't, because they take an oath, they go to medical school, and then when you mispronounce, use the wrong pronouns with me, and you're supposed to be medical staff.
Yeah.
Educated individual.
It's refusal. It's refusal. 'Cause-
Educated.
Yeah.
But
I do
yet,
it.
the state of California
Horrible.
sees me as female,
Yeah.
so it's like,
Yeah.
how do you guys
It's hurtful.
How do you guys do that? And so it makes you want to just say, you know what, discharge me. I want to go home.
Yep. Actually, come with us to the hospital.
Right?
Come with us to the hospital. Come with us, to the clinic or whatever, and see what it's like. Just see. Just be a fly on the wall and see. Because I know when you're in the high of the hierarchy, you don't even see it that it's real. You can't even see it's possible. Like, I have many doctors who I actually love, and they're like, there's no patient dumping at my hospital. I'm like, well, you don't see it because you're up there, but
Yeah.
it's there. Trust me.
When I was younger, I would go to the hospital in a nice neighborhood. If I went in bloody, they wiped the blood off of me. When we go there,
Yeah.
they don't wipe any of the blood off of you, and then they'll just push you out the door. You're covered in blood.
Yeah.
And there's, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. They don't do that. I mean, they don't
What is something they could do? What is something they could do today? Like if you had 3 wishes, and it would be about healthcare, not about anything else, because I could think of other 3 wishes I'd like. But what would be 3 things that if they could just magically change today?
to treat us the same way they treat people in other areas. Okay, treat us,
Yeah.
treat us as if we matter. Listen to what we say and treat us, whatever our race, our sexual preference, our sexual identity is, whatever the case is, where we come from, where I lay my head, treat me the same you would treat somebody,
It's a celebrity.
Right?
I
I
say,
saw that.
yeah. I think the biggest thing that was for me is like, I treat everyone as a human, and they're important.
Yep.
There's someone's daughter, there's someone's son, there's someone's mother, there's someone's father. And if I want my mother, my father, my brother, my sister, my siblings to be treated right, I'm going to treat them right. And that's what I think when I go out and help people. Because if my brother falls down, I want someone to help him.
Right. Very true.
And that's what it is for me.
What's something that you think they could do differently, especially having been on both sides, maybe EMT wise, like the ones that come out? I know that it's extremely violent.
I think the main thing with the EMTs and the paramedics and the fire department.
Yeah.
And I say that with a hurting heart.
Yeah, I know.
Because I took an oath, and I took that oath seriously. And when people fall out, I still go 110 miles per hour. And that is that everyone matters.
They paint this picture. I don't know how many people have seen in a movie or on TV where there's a kitten in a tree and the paramedics come and they get the ladder and they get it down. No, I had this kitten that I'd saved and it was choking to death or something, and I ran to the paramedics in a bra and shorts, and no shoes, and I was only thing that kept the ladder was I kept breathing into his mouth. And it would bite my face because it was terrified because it was choking to death. And I get there to the paramedics and they said to me, "What do we look like? Veterinarians?" And I got up my hands and I said, "I beg them to please just get out. Whatever was trying to smoke, can they just get it out?" And they refused to do it. And I sat there until the cat died. And I just. And that's how they treat us.
Yeah. It's very, very true. Unfortunately, like we talk about preventative medicine or healthcare or let's say quote unquote interventions. But the truth is there really isn't anything for you until you're that sick. Like they're not going to touch you until you actually like have no other choice but to get something, a heart transplant. Or like in jail, or I mean in court, like they can't even offer you anything until you have felonies. Like you can be begging as I bring people in with the misdemeanors that need care so bad, that have the mental and disabilities and all the things. I'm sorry, I hate to say this, but if she had felonies, we could be able to help her, but she doesn't. So we're going to find her incompetent, and you get to go home now.
Well, hold on to that.
But where's home? Home's back on the street where she's getting raped every day. Yeah. What about you, Mariah? If you had three or one wish that would change about healthcare or housing, even maybe. I mean, it's all about like people in those positions of caring for other people would be something that you would change, or get, maybe not change, just add to. Could have to do with anything, gendering or whatever. Profession.
People just show compassion.
Right, absolutely.
Just compassion for somebody else.
There's like a big point. Everybody, this is very interesting.
Stop being selfish.
Nothing has had to do with actual supplies. Nothing has had to do with like a medication or like a service. It's had to do with being treated equally.
Because
Is that amazing?
I have a lot of things wrong with me, but I won't go to take care of my breathing problem or my bladder problem or all these bladder problems that I have. I won't go take care of them because I don't want to go face all that.
Yep.
So we don't get our health needs met because we don't want to put ourselves in a situation where we're traumatized.
No, and here we are thinking that the obstacles are transportation, housing status, finances, and the single biggest obstacle to receiving care seems like is the complete lack of compassion and empathy.
Compassion,
And definitely structural violence that that you'll be subjected to if you go try to seek health care.
Yeah, I mean, imagine going there and someone looking at you and saying you're lying. You don't get that because you're not allowed to have that, or you're not in pain. Even though people who use opioids actually have a lower pain threshold. These are physicians, they should know that, right?
Right, and they're like, people
exactly.
don't come in here until their little health conditions have accumulated so much that we can't help them anymore. Or you make them feel like nothing when they try to come in here for those preventative health conditions.
Preventative, right, totally. They want to wait till you have like he had a hole. I could see the hardware he had in his leg, metal was sticking out, and they sent him home. And he was sleeping under a chair for 2 days in the emergency room, under a chair. And I think, unless you've ever been kicked, your body kicked from the bottom of a shoe just to move out of the way like that, I don't think you can understand how that feels. And I'd watch these nurses, I'd like looking at them, because I know how that feels. And so I'd see them shooing him like he's he is you're there to serve him, excuse me very much. He's here to try and take care of himself. Because you're going to say he doesn't care about himself.
My girl who was very sick, she had the same condition as you have. And when it got to the point where she couldn't walk, I went out and I got wheelchairs. I went to the local spot. I'm like, I'm not buying that wheelchair. It won't even stay together. I had to go to the west side.
Right.
I went to the west side, got her a brand new wheelchair that rolled, that had everything that was needed. And I actually paid less than I paid over here.
Right.
Yep.
Because I'm like, you know what? Someone who's in their last days doesn't need to say, oh, the wheel doesn't work today, I can't go. No, someone who's in their last days deserves and has the right to be treated with dignity and go outside and do those things they need to do.
I know. How was that for you, like the end there? I know it was really, it was awful, I know.
Yeah, it was just
You don't
hard.
have to talk about it if you don't want, but I know. Was there a physician? Was there anybody there, like hospice or anything like happening, or are you just on your own?
No, I did the hospice myself. But I did the hospice myself because she didn't want to be treated bad.
Yeah.
Right.
She didn't want to be treated bad because she said, she used until the day she died.
Yeah, for sure. Right.
Because she was in such pain, the medication didn't help her. So I would fix her pipe and let her do what she needed to do, and she'd be all right. But it was hard. But I knew it's something that I needed to do for her, and for me too. But but for her. So, and I, when someone dies with their dignity, in their home, in their bed, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know,
It is. It really
She
is.
wanted to die, and when she died, she soiled herself. She didn't want the people to come find
Yep.
her like that.
Yep.
So she made sure that she was cleaned and cleaned her clothes and stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's what was her fear that they would come and see her.
Yeah.
And you had to do this yourself.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a mystery maybe, or it's hard to fathom because many people don't ever have to be in that situation. It's like you can't even fathom what that's like because when you call the police actually help you. Or when you go to the emergency room, they actually take you in and like you come out going, thank God we went there tonight,
How
and you're
many
so
hours
much
did you have
better.
to wait for them to come?
Oh gosh, don't even tell me how long the coroner said.
I waited 12 hours for
12 hours
them,
for the coroner to show up.
for the coroner to come show up.
12 hours. That's just-
So, and you know what happens when a body sits.
Yeah.
It's not the rigor mortis, the body leaks.
Yeah.
Every muscle in the body releases. So, I waited 12 hours. So I took towels and I took sheets and I cleaned her up and I put in the trash. And I did that for 12 hours until they showed up. And the coroner said, wow, you did a great job. And I said, well, if it was your mom, you would too.
Yeah.
Or if it was someone you loved, you would too.
Right.
You know, and they understood that.
Yeah.
But it's a very difficult thing to do, you know.
Yeah.
The thing that kept me going is she said, I know that I'm gonna die. And I said, I know.
Yeah.
And she says, just don't let them treat me bad.
Yeah. Oh my God. Did she have endocarditis by chance? Because that's another subject I was going to talk about. Did she at one time? You know, like that's a big one out here is endocarditis, right? Is we refuse to acknowledge the fact that giving someone supplies isn't what's making. I use drugs. We didn't have any harm reduction resources, nothing. I would take 2 pennies to sharpen needles. I would share. I did all that. I ended up getting, gnarly abscesses, septic, like all kinds of things. And it didn't stop me one little bit from using because I was tortured inside. If I didn't use, as soon as I started to even come to like, oh my God, I remember what happened to me. Like I was so bad, I hated myself. And so to give someone these supplies, supplies are such a minor part of harm reduction. But at least to give someone some supplies and talk to them like a human being and be like, listen, this is a better way. If you're constantly, doing this, you're going to get endocarditis. And guess what? I know so many people that are not from the, we talk a lot about overdose, but like the endocarditis thing is huge out here.
Yeah.
Their kidneys are failing, their livers are failing, their heart's failing.
Yeah.
They have valves that are, damaged, and then down the road, boom, they have something like this. And these are human beings that if someone were to intercept a way long time ago and give them education about how to use. It's like the old school way, like if you give your kids condoms, you're going to give them permission to have sex. They're going to have sex anyways. Let's give them education and condoms so that you do it safer, right? It's the same thing, and it saved money. In my mind, to have someone needs a heart transplant, it would have saved so much money to 6 years ago, make sure they always had new needles and make sure they had education about alcohol wipes on the skin and just make sure they knew how to, avoid soft tissue damage and all those things. Right? Isn't that much? It's cost effective and hospital bed effective,
Yeah.
Right, let's think about what's actionable on our side,
Right.
I don't know, I think it's all being spun in such a weird way because the best way to prevent infective endocarditis would be by helping people using a way that prevents that, right?
Right.
Yes.
It's I'm just not going to give you any information, then when it happens, it's told you what happened.
So
Yeah.
see how you guys are?
See,
Yeah.
told you.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's exactly what happens. It's it's intentional. I have a hard time because I try not to do, but I see everything is very intentional. For me,
Yeah.
I see everything is very intentional because I just can't see it in 2022 that educated people are not aware of this stuff. It's
That
not
part.
possible to me. It's just
That part.
I can't quite understand that. But also, we always go the pendulum too far. We either are going to do nothing for you, or we're going to take you in against your will. There's nowhere in the middle. There's no gray area, and we all fall in the gray area. Nobody actually. You're either too sick or you're too well. So you have to fall. You need to teeter over one or the other. Start teetering. But 90% of people out here are in the middle. Yeah. There's nothing for you in the middle. And people like Jorge, people like the HRLA, where they're in medical school and they're recognizing harm reduction. They're like saying, hey, wait a minute, this is like big, this is important. We play a huge role. Like you guys play a huge role. It's so valuable that you are even, that these kind of classes even happen. Yeah. That we can sit here on camera and say what the truth of our lives, right? And not like, you know, maybe we do feel embarrassed. Maybe it's odd to feel that way. You're not to feel proud of yourself. I feel proud as hell for everything that I ever did to get myself to here. But that took a lot of therapy, a lot of stuff, you know, and I still have moments, whatever, but I mean, I'll be down, you know, I've had a lot of stuff taken from me and I've given a lot of stuff away. I'll be down if they're going to take that from me. Yeah. Like I am proud, everything I ever did, whether that be stole from the store, used under the bridge, sold my body, whatever, it brought me to here today. Yeah.